what I'll do is we'll go through your form. Any
Mhm.
questions that we'll have through there, we'll go over that really quick, and then we'll take a look at some gameplay afterwards. I have this
Absolutely.
recorded, so I can send it to you afterwards. That way, if
Wonderful.
you have any questions or anything you want to go over, you have something to go back and look over.
Yeah.
Okay, so what got you interested in coaching?
Um, so I've always been I guess I'll start. We'll do the whole Overwatch thing.
Sure.
When I got this game very, very, very early on console, because my friends on console wanted me to get this game early. And I did not play it. I did not like it. In fact, I was kind of on like the Overwatch bandwagon of like, nah, I don't want to play that game. Not good.
Yeah.
Not good game. I played like 27 hours of Reinhardt Season 1 and maybe got silver. Um, so fast forward a little bit, I got really into competitive Dead by Daylight. Uh, yeah, funny enough, not really a competitive game, but I got really into the macro of Dead by Daylight. And I got
Interesting.
really interested in that. So I transitioned there back into Overwatch by happenstance, I guess. I was a hog main for a while because it was fun and Overwatch 1. I
Nice.
think this was about 2018 probably.
Sure.
Um, and then I went to college and
Sure.
tried out for the Overwatch team. Um, and after kind of being this like small club Overwatch team, um, we were kind of doing like weird, compositions. I was kind of understanding like, oh, this is a little bit like the meta is interesting. I never really believed in meta.
Hmm.
Like I have a weird relationship with that term in the first place. But like basically through working with the collegiate team as a player first, and then eventually we won an NECC division title, and then actually nationals for our division, which was like masters at the time. I got interested in like helping the team, and then I spent a lot of time in the same way that I do with most things. I got really really into the research of it and into the macro of it, and even more so than I played the game. So I was
Right.
like, okay, well, I prefer this, and I like working with people. I think I'm a decent enough leader. I give inspiring speeches and all that. But yeah, that's kind of where what led me to coaching. So right now, I'm coaching my collegiate team. I've graduated from the college, and I'm technically on staff as well to do it. Um, so yeah, that's where I'm at with coaching.
Okay. Okay. So sounds good. So coaching the coach, and then I want to go through your form one step at a time,
Mhm,
and then just preferably have you just elaborate on whatever you have put in the form. So let's start with number one.
absolutely.
What do
Yep.
you hope you got out of the session? How to best help players improve their game? What percentage of my time should be focused on what? Mechanics, positioning, timing? How do I identify these behaviors and hold them to the improvement?
Mhm.
So I assume it's specifically about like where do I get the highest return on investment? Right.
Yeah, that's part of it. Honestly, like the best way that I can explain what I'm doing here um, is kind of like this. I would say that I'm more interested in. I'm not. As I say, I'm pretty confident. I'm very confident in my understanding of the game,
Yep.
macro and micro wise. Um, I've done a lot of a VOD review watching, and then also like your content, Temporal's
Sure.
content. I was like I'm pretty active in basically all those spheres. Um, so I'm pretty good at what I'm more interested in is like how do like for example Overwatch League teams run VOD reviews? What do they think about when they're trying to go into scrims? What what are best case examples for getting people to understand and adapt to concepts they may not have thought about before and remember them in game. Like I know these are also kind of like weird things that might not have great answers, but that's what I'm interested in, I guess.
I don't
Like
think they're weird answers. I mean, you're asking the very fundamentals of learning and leadership, right? Like it's the
yes.
most valuable thing you can really understand. And
Yeah.
I think there's different like the way. Here's the way I look at it. Okay, so there is the leader follower model
Mhm.
where you have a certain subset structure of
Mhm.
understanding what you can do,
Yep.
and then you tell your followers what to do, and
Yep.
then you provide positive reinforcement or positive punishment,
Yep.
depending on their ability to follow up through what your command is. All things considered, it works great. It's great. If it doesn't work out, it's not so good. But you live and die basically off of your commands and your ability to run a tight ship, right?
Yep.
Then there is what I would see the, not to be corny here, but I'm just going to use it because I'm lazy. The leader mindset, where you create people that can keep themselves accountable, be able to think on the fly, and be able to, what I would best describe as improvise.
Right.
Based off of what they know and understand, not just from what they've learned from you, but what they've taught themselves.
Yep.
Now, there are teams. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, Jocko Willink.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the Jocko Willink school.
100%.
Correct?
100%. Yeah, 100%. And there's a lot of other people that I've just read a book recently from a nuclear submarine, and there's a lot of professional coaches that lean into that. And my take is, I think that there's always a little bit of a balance that's needed here and there. I think it's very important when people hear the leader mindset, they think that like there's no discipline, there's no sort of tempo set by the leadership, or there's no sort of like you still need to build the environment, and you still need to set this is like I also think in the leader format, it's very important that you train those leaders, right? That you teach them the game. But the goal is that you need to teach them so that you can take your hands off at certain points. And I think that that's something that when you ask like what have a lot of Overwatch League teams do, honestly, a lot of Overwatch League teams I don't think do a very good job from what I know.
Yeah.
I think I can tell you that there are a lot of teams. London, for example, has found a lot of success with a strict leader follower setup, where Chris and X work very hard because they're extremely intelligent coaches at setting. These are the set plays. These are the TPs that we do. These are the rotations that we do. This is what we do. But I'm going to be perfectly honest. I don't agree with that mindset all the way through.
Okay.
And I think that's why they've been limited with the amount of compositions that they can play besides the hero pool. Now, they would probably disagree with that. And we had a lot of coaching culture clashes, I guess would be throughout there. Because I was very much like, I want players to take ownership and things. And they didn't. Now, to be very clear, what they did was very successful.
Yep.
And I have no problem with it. I just personally don't agree with the philosophy when it comes to Overwatch. I think Overwatch is too complicated of a game. I think it's too complex of a game to be able to call for every X scenario. I think you need the players to be able to figure things out, especially if the composition isn't a Symmetra Rhine comp, right? When there's a lot more dynamics involved. That's my opinion. So I'm going to preach my opinion, but draw your own conclusions.
Right. Yeah.
There's also a lot of Overwatch League teams that have the no leadership mindset, where there's some teams that don't really have much leadership, or don't really take ownership and don't really set a culture, don't really educate, don't really teach, don't really keep people accountable, don't really encourage or motivate players. And I think that's where have either as the spectrum, and I think like player-led teams are one of those where that's been a problem as well. And so I think I wouldn't even say there's necessarily a balance between the two, because I think when it comes to the leader format, I think it's just entirely foreign. It's completely outside of the box. It's not somewhere between. It's not at all like the other two. So my philosophy has always been like a successful Overwatch League team is going to be able to, with the leadership, train leaders and how to be leaders in game, and keep them accountable along the way. Is what I would say.
Okay. So I have a question.
Sure.
One of the things that I run into as a kind of collegiate Overwatch coach is obviously we won't have as much time to do the things that we want to do. And obviously we're working not only on time constraints, but resource constraints. For example, we won't have, I don't know, like we're a 4.5 team, like we're decent in collegiate, but we're not like, I don't know if you follow collegiate Overwatch, we're not like the Redbirds or Fisher or whatever, like the big teams that have lots and lots of money to get the best players so they can, really focus on the, really specific things that they need to do because everyone already understands the game at that level. So I have to like catch up people in some sense. So what that means, not only do I have to catch up people I've found, but I'm working within a time constraint, and I'm kind of naturally, by necessity of resource, of time, I have to. I feel like I have to be the kind of autocrat, for lack of a better term, to get people on the same page, to get people to do like like it's the whole idea of like, can you lead a horse to water? Yes. Can you make it drink? No. I feel like I kind of have to do some disproportionate heavy lifting in some instances,
Yes.
perhaps,
Yes.
to get everyone up to speed, and that makes me feel like an autocrat. And then what that means for people in game is that maybe they can't get the solutions themselves. They can't be the leader in game. They
Yes.
can't make the
Yes.
call, the tempo call, or whatever it is.
Yes. So here's a very, very simple solution. Obviously, how it's going to actually be applied might be complex,
Yep.
but give them leadership up to their competence.
Okay.
And their competence will be reflected in the amount of time that they have to spend to play and train the game.
Okay.
So for you, it's like I can't give them as much leadership or ownership as I'm allowed to because they don't have the competence to do it, like you said, and figure it out for themselves. We don't have the time, we don't have the resources. Okay,
Yep.
but to what extent are they competent?
Okay.
Do they understand the characters that they play? Do they understand the basics of a good communicational structure? Do they understand what you're looking for or what they should be looking for in a fight plan?
Mm-hmm.
Then allow them to take ownership of that, and you have to pick up the slack where you need to pick up the slack.
Okay.
Right?
Yes. That leads me to another question, and we're getting pretty tangential here, but one of the things that we've obviously had to deal with, I would say obviously, one of the things we've had to deal with in a weird way is compositional choice. And this is part of it, I think again, like the autocrat idea. I think the best way to get everyone on the same page is to basically one trick for the better part of a season, one comp. And this not only can lead to some fissures, right? But in the team, basing on what people want to play and all that other stuff, and like what they actually want to get out of it. And for the most part, everyone's competitively aimed, right? Everyone wants to be the best, and they buy into what I'm selling. But you don't want to necessarily only play Lucio all day, or only do Reinhardt or Sigma all day. So it's like, okay, it's kind of tricky to work around that. I want to give variety. I want to make it an enjoyable experience. But I think in order to get people up to the competence level that you mentioned, is to make them really fundamentally understand what we're looking for in fights and planning. And the best way for them to do that is to just have an exorbitant amount of experience on one composition.
I'd agree with that.
And I feel like one of the things that I'm running into is like, okay, if we're going to get the experience, we have to just do these reps, guys. And it's might not be very fun, but you just have to trust. Like, we have to do something, right? We can't. I mean, one of the things that I just talked about, I had a meeting with the team. We sat everyone down. It's like, there's gonna be, if we want to like be really competitive, we have to do uncomfortable reps. That's like, anything else. We've got to do our sprints. We've got to practice. And I don't know. Feel like I feel like also part of the problem that I run into is like, yes, we'll play these compositions and we'll do well, but like there's a lot of matchups, in Overwatch to consider, and I don't want to. That's where I get confused, because it's like, okay, I can tell you them. The macro, the theory is basic, but when you're in game and you're playing, I don't know, say Brawl Mirror, right? Basic Rhine stuff. It's like whatever, trading, all that stuff, rotations, try to catch tails, all the other stuff that isn't important for this conversation. And then all of a sudden you switch into you're playing against a dive comp. I now feel like, okay, I'm not in the voice call. I can't tell them how to play the game, but they have to like remember, and they have to like now control the space instead of chasing down targets or doing rotations. Like, you have to now play the pokier side of things, and it's like,
right.
I don't know. I feel like there's just a late switch on like what is next. What's the next plan? Like, what's happening next? And I want people to get there, but I feel like the thing that I'm hitting is like, okay, Like, how do I get a team to be very good at something while also being flexible, I guess, because they're the kind of like different things.
No,
I don't know.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. It's like finding value, specific expertise within the niche versus being able to dynamic. And then now you see why I'm a big fan of the leader mindset. Because if you don't have the players that are creative and able to come up with stuff on the fly or know the character or then you're gonna have a really hard time. So that's why I think, like, first off, when it comes to like how do I get the guys to get the reps on the composition, I think that you need to there's two different ways of approaching it, right? Like, I think that you need to have some form of buy-in for something to be practiced at its highest level. I think what you could do is you could frame it as we're going to practice this comp on only a couple of maps, right? And what might happen is that the level of competence, the level of effort during those maps will be higher because they know, okay, we can only play it for these maps that are where it actually makes sense that we think, right?
Okay.
And let them give full effort there. And then we can continually revisit the composition as we move forward. Hey guys, what do you think about running it here? What do you think about running it here? And what might happen is that all of a sudden, one day they might wake up and realize that that's a composition that they're pretty comfortable playing.
Okay.
And they might be more open to trying it elsewhere. I know it sounds like, work for an inch, but that's how you build trust. Let them, and you're still allowing them to have a say in terms of what's run. Right.
Yes. Right. Yes. Okay.
Because that's the hard thing. Because it's like, I mean, even at the Overwatch League, if you cannot make players play a composition that they don't want to play, you can threaten to cut them, you can bench them, but if they can go out there, but if they don't believe in it, they're just not going to play it as well as they.
They're not going to buy in. They're not going to make the creative play that's necessary for winning.
It takes an unbelievable amount of like personal discipline and self-awareness to be able to really give something a fair shot. And that's not even necessarily a youth problem or an attitude problem. You can have players with good attitudes that are willing to try stuff, but they just don't quite have that level of like motivation and confidence that's going to allow them to give it a good go. So you kind of have to build that slowly over time. And I think that's where if you force feed that too much, then it becomes a problem. The only time I've ever OTB'd compositions were when we either slowly accumulated expertise and then got a lot of confidence, or players full out were like all in, wanted to do it. And then there were no questions about whether it was going to work, whether they're going to give it their all. Of course, they're going to give it their all. They were fully out on it. So just keep that in mind. And then I guess when it comes to your question about like, how do I coach a brawl mirror and then turn around and go, oh no, they're playing dive. What's the like? That's why I've continually revisited things like really planning more than anything else. So one of my life hacks is if you really want players that can plan or players that can react to that, pull up that compositional matchup in VOD review. And be like, guys, how do we play?
And just
let it sit. Let it sit. Right? Let it stew. Because what you're doing is you're doing two things and they don't even realize it. One, the obvious one is you're making them think about the matchup and come up with the answers. But more importantly, in my opinion, is you're getting them comfortable communicating their solutions to each other, which, as you could probably guess, is really important in game. Hey guys, I want to do this. I think that we should do this. Right? And then what you could do is, you can coach them, you can discuss, you can provide your input, and you'll slowly, I did this with Len, and I've done this with all of my teams. Your philosophy will, I hate the word, but permeate, I guess. It will slowly start to kind of shape things. But also be very comfortable with like, if they think they come up with a bad plan, I don't think that's how you play the matchup. Let them go try it.
Okay. Yeah.
Let them try it.
Right, of course.
Maybe you got something to learn, right? Maybe they just need to get smacked in the face a little bit, right?
Sure.
But I think so. Then the question isn't necessarily, I need to teach them that specific matchup. They just need to be better at reading matchups.
Yes.
And that is a skill that you can VOD review, like more so. Like I put that skill at like top 2 or 3 skills in Overwatch. There's having a basic communicational plan. The reason why that skill is important is, besides the obvious reasons, is that it's always relevant. Being consistent at fight planning, right? And how to like ult track and ult plan, right? That's always viable. And analyzing and coming up with creative ideas with compositions and matchups that are not mirror. And notice that all 3 of those skills are always crucial. never will be wasted time, you know?
Yeah. It's like that thing that people say that is particular to Overwatch, but also in other things. It's like it's better to have like one plan versus 5 different ones.
Right.
And it's like that's just like exactly it broken down. Like it doesn't matter if it's a shit plan. If you can communicate a plan within the team and then do the plan, focus on that, and then do the matchup oriented plan after. Right. Like it's like it's totally it's like
right. And back to piggyback off of what you just said, you're going to have the players that are going to have to be comfortable with like chiming in and working with each other's plan. Like some people may look at a composition, have 2 different ideas. You need to let them hash it out a little bit, and figure out a way until they get comfortable, like you, trying things that they're not 100% sold on, just to give it a fair shot. And coincidentally, that may also indirectly make them more interested in giving your brawl comp or OTP comp a try, because they're used to trusting each other, right?
Yes. Yeah, I think one of the other issues that you run into, and I have certainly in the past, with you know doing that kind of this is how you play the composition is you teach them how to play the composition, and then they go and they play the composition in a scrim or whatever, and they just get crushed according, like trying to do what I say, basically what the macro indicates. Like what we'll watch like a higher level team do something, and like this is like fundamentally what they're trying to do, and they will go into a game and they'll get beat by a composition that we were supposed to be able to beat because we just did a VOD about it. Despite the fact that maybe we didn't do things perfectly, maybe we got a little bit unlucky, maybe we did things really poorly, we weren't actually paying attention or communicating, or any of the timing was right in the first place. But the idea then is like, okay, well, that macro idea didn't work. It must be totally invalidated, right? It must be totally wrong. And then the idea of like, yes, exactly. It's that idea of asking questions and then coming up with things. Okay, maybe that, maybe that, maybe that. This is what the pros seem to think. This is what the contenders players seem to think. This is what they tend to do. And then working from that perspective to try to build like, one block at a time instead of just placing down the structure and hoping that they can just hold up all the beams necessary.
That's it, exactly. Because the problem with that is not only is it overwhelming, but it almost guarantees negative reinforcement.
Right.
Because they're not going to be able to hold up that house, right? So it's going to fall, and so then they're going to be like, well, this house sucks, right?
Yep.
So you need to put up you have to put up you got to put up a wall first, or you got to put up a foundation, or you got to put up one thing at a time, you know, as painful and as agonizing as it may be. Now, the good news is that as they start to improve and understand the game more, it becomes more of they have the blueprint in their brain from the last time that they did it. So when you have to restart over again, you're not really starting over again. They've had that house in the back of their brain.
Yep. They're not thinking by my schematic. They're not trying to interpret my explanation. They've got their own idea. They've got their own layout in their own heads.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like when you OTP a character for like 2 or 3 months and you don't play it for a year. You pick that character up again, you're going to be terrible, but you're going to pick it up a lot faster than you did back then, because there's still the skeleton framework of what you need.
Right.
Absolutely. Keep looking through the forum here. I'm a proponent of one tricking and ranked. I guess we talked about that a little bit. As a collegiate coach, my players have lives outside of Overwatch. How can I be the most effective and efficient in my coaching? As it stands, we play about 10 hours a week and have weekly one-on-ones and team VOD reviews. I feel as if my scrims and team VODs could use improvement, be more targeted. Okay, what do you feel needs to be improved? Let's start with your team VODs.
Sure. So part of, again, we kind of highlighted some of the issues that we run into in terms of like, I feel like I'll talk about things and there's either not enough player reaction. Like I hate the idea of going into a VOD review, and luckily we do most of our team VODs in person, thank God. And just like having like silence back at me. It's just like the most just like what am I even doing here? Like feeling. It's like, Jesus, come on. But that's sometimes what I get. And it makes me feel like I'm lecturing, and everything that I know about getting people involved in things, for the most part, means that a silent lecture, at least a one-way lecture, is not how you get interaction. It's not what you want. So I think much of this would be ameliorated by just forcing them to answer the questions. Because I'll ask questions, and they won't be rhetorical, but I feel like there's not a real either and certainly the case that I will maybe answer the question too fast sometimes, but it's also the case that I won't let enough wrong answers happen.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. It's funny what a little bit of self-reflection can do.
Yeah, no, yeah, certainly. I mean, it's like this is, again, it feels like almost like an obvious thing when you think about like how to come up with ideas. It's just like, yeah, no, ask a question, get the question wrong, but it's like, it's hard
remember,
for me.
Your job
Yeah.
is not to tell, is not really, it's very short-sighted to be like, I'm going to dominate and tell you what's doing right. I'm going to ask a question, like, because a lot of times I honestly, I still struggle with this in a lot of my one-on-ones where I'll lead the question. Like, I'm expecting you to answer in a certain way.
Same.
And so, but that's okay, because it does allow them to, they come to the conclusion, they answer, hey, all right. But sometimes it's better to be a little bit more open-ended and try to not lead them. Let them figure it out, struggle a little bit, and ask a specific person. And you know what? Let the awkward silence stew a little bit.
Yeah. No, I'm a big fan of putting people in awkward situations. I'm very mean to my players sometimes with that. But it's just sometimes, I feel like I'm not getting the desired effect. Like I feel like I don't know what it is. When I'll do that, I'll ask someone like, what exactly does this mean? I feel like maybe they're either expecting me to answer the question for them, and again, it's probably just precedent,
learned
right?
Behavior,
it's set up,
right?
Yeah, it's learned behavior, right? So I think if I'm gonna be, really, active in how I reconsider these things, what I'll have to do is do a total 180, totally like drop the bad habits that I've picked up and then therefore my team has picked up because of it, and be like, okay, guys, here's some like pictures, basically like Rorschach tests of comps and like matchups and stuff, and be like, what's going on here? Tell me. And then they'll talk for a little bit, and then I'll flip to the next slide, and they'll talk for a little bit, and then maybe then we can do like a fight. Like VOD review, like one fight and talk about ideas, perhaps, but I'm just spitballing. In terms of what I feel like the greater problem that I can outline in words here is, how do I allow for that player to be able to explore their own ideas? When do I want to allow that? When do I want, not allow it, but when do I want to facilitate that kind of environment, versus when do I want to facilitate the idea, again, as the coach idea? One of the classic kind of ideas for coaching is coaching can expedite your improvement through like basically shared experience, right? Like if I basically just telling someone in simple terms, like when does that balance happen? Because again, I watched a ton of VOD review. I watched a ton of Overwatch, like on half speed to like see what's going on. At this point, I'm too far gone. I do so much VOD review, it's insane. So like when do I say this is what seems to be the right answer versus this is what versus what do you guys think the answer is?
Well, you have to kind of expedite the process, and like you said, use your judgment, right? For example, when you're asking questions, don't give the answers. When you're doing a team fight analysis as a unit, and the goal is to get the guys talking, get the guys talking. If a player comes up to you and says, I'm not really sure what I should be doing with my BAP window here, sit and talk with them about it, and do try to encourage them. But if they're really stuck, like you can dislodge the mental roadblock, right, a little bit. Go ahead.
I'm gonna say, or maybe honestly, it's as simple as just do what I do, how I learned about the game is I just okay. If you have some problems, let's sit down and let's watch a Contenders POV.
One of the best things that I've done with my coaching, and this is one-on-one and team coaching, is I'll discuss and we'll talk about like what we are supposed to do, right? And let them tell me what they're supposed to do, and then say, hey, you didn't do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So I'll coach a silver, Anna and be like, what do you think is the best use of nade, or how should you position? And then say, pause at an opportune time and be like, what do you think? And they'll go, oh yeah, because a lot of times I will, and this is a silver player. Right? A silver player has a general idea of like what they ought not be doing. So more than anything else, you might not even do a lot of teaching. You might just be pointing out where the discrepancies in what they know to do and what they're actually doing are. And that's also, as a leader, like that's where your expertise is very important. So you're talking about like, how do I use this knowledge? Some of it's for teaching, 100%. But some of it's also just for knowing what questions to ask.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Because if I didn't know what good on a play looked like, I wouldn't know what questions I would be asking. I would need. I would hope that they would recognize things, but the recognition requires skill.
Yeah. I mean, again, we can like the old pedagogy of the old school. I mean, they had lectures, but then they had assessments afterwards.
Right.
And like, I feel like oftentimes, at least for me, like, I mean, one of the things I'm a writer. So one of the things that you just work through problems. You just ask yourself the question, and on assessments as well. It's like if there's ever like a writing portion, you just get to think your own ideas out. That's all writing even is just thinking.
Sure. Think about it this way: how many of your players right now, if given total free reign of the team to do whatever they wanted, composition wise or strategy wise, would do what they want to an extent? You know what I'm saying?
Probably 2, maybe, but it would be. Yeah, I know what you mean. It would be very tenuous.
All right. So, how many of your players, if given the opportunity to change to change what compositions you could play, would do so, even just in a small way?
2, a different 2.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but you see what I'm saying. So when we talk about enabling your players, how about this? Get out of their way.
Yeah.
Why aren't those players speaking up and like having more say? Like if the desire is there, like trust me, I know that there are players that just don't give a darn. Like they just don't care about anything, and they just show up, and that's like So you can probably, you can cultivate a little flower in the player like that and of interest eventually over time. I've done it. It takes a long time, but certainly the ones that are already blooming and like chomping at the bit to an extent, you don't need to enable them. You just need to get out of their way.
Yep.
Let them do what they want to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. And your job is to mediate, to ask the right questions, and to set the basic structure and let them run.
Yep. Yeah. No, I will say, so the team has been in its effectively the same form for the past year. And we've seen small successes in collegiate play. So yeah, most of the people are in fact bought into it, but I think that's probably what it is. I need to kind of like, it's like there's an analogy actually in writing. It's called the architect versus the gardener. And the way that it works is when you're a writer and you're out drafting a novel or something, and you're thinking about characters, you can either get them to where they go by structuring a plot and structuring kind of motivation for them, and like basically laying out the whole thing. And it's like, okay, this is going to happen because this happened before it and this happened before that. And it's like you get to where you go by the whole, you lay the whole thing out. And then gardening, which is funnily enough what I prefer to write, like, is just you just have a couple of characters, couple of people, and you just try to make them as real as possible, and they'll grow into different ways, and you try to be as hands off as possible with them, and you just let it happen and unfold. And it might be terrible, and in fact it probably will, and that's what revision is for. But yeah,
you put them in circumstances and see what happens.
Exactly. I feel it's kind of like if you love something, let it die.
Right. Let him make a mistake.
Yeah, you got to back off. Can't be the tyrannical parent.
Right. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is like, it's really the analogy holds really tightly with parenting, where like you set a structure, you instill your values, but you give ownership whenever and wherever you can.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. Advice on accurate scrimmage goal setting. What are the processes for OWL teams? I don't really know what other OWL teams were. For London, we usually keep it like pretty simple. A couple of goals go in. I know. I honestly, I tried some pretty weird stuff back in my day. I would try setting specific scrim goals like that would fall for the whole scrim. I found that it's difficult to keep one goal in mind for an entire scrim.
Yeah, I believe it.
Very, very difficult. So what I would do is go ahead.
I was gonna say I've even found that after like the first 3, maybe even 4 games, the scrim it begins to fall apart in integrity almost.
I would agree with that.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. So that's where you choose your battles, right? Like that's where you make your first couple of maps the most important maps. That's where you make the first couple of fights on each map where you really, guys, we need to make sure that we're doing X or Y or Z, and like you really make sure that you do, like you give it their all. And then, like the last couple of maps, what you do is, to be honest with you, rather than like, if you feel like the integrity is dipping off, just keep it chill. Let it go, like let go of the reins, let the horse run wild a little bit, and then try to set up for next day. Let them just get their mechanics. They'll still be practicing. It might not be the most efficient, effective practice, but like don't let it be like, oh, he's always a whip cracker no matter what we do, right?
No,
he's really disciplined when we got the juice, but when we don't have the juice, he like lays off, right?
Yeah. No, I'm decent at that. I like to think that I'm not too hard, but again, I'm definitely.
It's about selectively hard, right? But you see, it's not like, oh, I'm too hard or too easy. It's about when are you hard and when are you easy, right? I think you should be hard. You should be keeping them accountable the first couple of maps, full effort, and even interjecting. I avoid that whenever you can, but hey, this is what we need to be doing, whatever that goal is, right? But
yeah, I do it from time to time, because I feel like things will get silly. I try to do it earlier rather than later. Again, in scrims, at the end of scrims, I'm usually like, again after like that 4th scrim block or scrim map, whatever. I'm usually pretty loose. I take a lot of player suggestion.
Sure.
We play a lot more Torbjorn in the back half of the maps, and we're pretty good at control, which is the first map that we play in scrim every time. So
sure. I mean, that might be even a fun thing where like the last map or two, you guys just run like experimental comps or something like that, and see like let the kitchen cook a little bit, right? And that's where, because you lighten up, you can actually make the back end of practice productive again.
Absolutely, yeah. No, we make absolutely. We did a pretty decent showing on. We brought back Balls End Brig, which some people are doing, but yeah, it was just like we reached into the Overwatch 1 handbook.
I feel like there's a lot of Overwatch teams that do triple blocks. I feel like the teams that do triple blocks should always make the third block a fun block.
Yeah.
I've always felt like that. I don't know a lot of teams that do it, and I can speak from experience. Teams that have done triple blocks, it's ugly.
Oh yeah, it's
90% of the time it's ugly. Either on the second block or late third block, a lot of wasted maps. Wasted maps.
No. We will do double blocks. We did double blocks more frequently. When we like prepare for like our division nationals, that sort of thing. And they can get a little bit when you don't have everyone bought into something, when you don't have everyone on board, when you're not actually looking for specific things to actually get out of the scrim, they can fall apart pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Double blocks are for for college students that aren't like pros, double blocks get like that. That's tough.
Well, it's equivalent of a triple block, right? Because those guys are doing more than Overwatch League players are doing before the scrim even starts.
Yep.
Right.
No, it's true.
It's a lot harder. Okay. Now I'm curious about your one-on-ones, weekly one-on-ones. How does that usually go? Is that with everybody, or just a couple players, or as needed, or what?
So we got 6 people on the team. And what we've been doing is I've been meeting with two of them before a scrim. And I'll just talk about kind of like, again, it's much looser. It's much less macro stuff. It's more like, what do you think about this SimTP here? Would it have been better if you had comp for everyone to take it, or just you on an angle? Like,
You're leading the question.
Yeah, I know exactly. That's exactly the
No.
problem. It's like
Here's where I'm gonna be honest with you. I think in those situations, I think just no BS. Either go in there and be like, hey, listen, these are 3 or 4 SimTPs where I feel like they were just bad.
Okay.
So I want you to take a look at and tell me like what you think. Where could you have done different? Don't try and be sweet,
Yeah,
Lucy. So if
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
then
yeah, you're right.
or do the complete opposite. Be like, hey, legitimately, like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Is there anything that we could be doing better here? Like, and I think like try to pick stuff where you really don't know the answer, right? Like, or maybe you're not 100% sure, like where you're not having to pretend to not know. Like, let the player 4.5K expertise kick in a little bit and let them come up with their own things here. But
Right.
you know, even when you point out the errors, you're still kind of like leaving the door open for them to kind of provide you the solution. But you don't have to overly pretend that like, hey, this is bad. Don't do that.
Yeah,
You know?
it is contrived, and
Right.
it won't help them, actually think when they know that I have the answer in a golden
Right.
envelope.
It's kind of
ready to
like, you
open
know,
in
you
30
see those
seconds.
parents that are like, "Hey, buddy,
Yep.
can we not cross the street?"
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
no,
That's
hey,
so.
kid,
Oh
don't cross the
God.
street. You're gonna get hit by a car. Okay,
Yeah.
don't do that. You know, this is what, you know. You give them the why and stuff, but there's some things where you don't have to.
That's so funny how I see that manifest in me now. I would not have expect. I mean, I don't act like that in other instances, but I guess it must just be my connection to the team. I guess
Well,
like my.
you're trying to
Yeah.
be the guy that's asking the questions. You
Right.
just might not be very good at it. And to be very clear, I'm throwing stones here, but I have the same issue too, right? Where
No,
like I said, I tend to lead the question way too often myself. When I should just let them either tell them this is bad, this is why, or even better, let them come to the conclusion themselves without trying to be contrived or leading the question or trying to be like, hey, what do you think about this? Do you think
Yeah.
this is really, really stupid and bad?
Right. Right. Yeah. Right. Well, I mean, that's exactly
Yes.
what you're doing with me right now. Right? I mean, it's the
Right.
same concept. You're either giving me bullshit. You're saying no, that's bullshit, or you're
Trying to anyway.
yeah. Well, I mean, no, I think that yeah. I mean, that's what you just said. You said you're leading the question. Yeah, it's a hard stop, and I agree. And then all of a sudden now I agree with you, and now I'm thinking about it, and like just like how you get a player to get what they want, now I'm thinking about what I know to be the right answer, which is
Right.
what you made me look at by saying that I was hard wrong.
Right.
Um,
I just know that the most progress I've ever made in anything that I've done has come through self-reflection with a tiny bit of feedback.
of course, yeah,
And I think sometimes coaches kind of forget that, right? Like we always want to do
yep,
all the feedback and we want to drown out the self-reflection.
yep,
Or we'll never get, we won't, some coaches just are totally hands off and never give the feedback or never provide the environment where
right,
players are allowed to kind of think their own things. Because let's face it, some players you need to get out of their way. Some players need a very gentle motivation to
yep,
actually start thinking some, right?
yep,
So you want to create an environment where that's fun and that
yep,
and that you don't discourage them. I think that's again another parenting analogy here, like where if you give kids a little bit of ownership to make a decision with what they do or how they do things and immediately like chastise them and break them down, then they're being punished for saying or doing things. So they're not going to do it anymore. They don't trust you, right?
yep,
So if you go in and you provide this environment for players to kind of speak up, and then you completely shut them down or say no, that's bad, then you've just that's the worst thing that you could do. It's a lie, right? So that's when you really have to kind of be like, all right, listen, this sucks, but we're gonna try it, you know.
okay,
So
yeah, and I just can't. I just have to just let them to figure it out.
right, and you could
Yeah,
provide critiques to the sideline too. You can be like, hey, this is what do you guys think about this? And again, don't just like like for example, the scrum, you guys try a weird comp, and it goes terribly because it's bad, and you know it's bad. Don't just be like, all right, guys, have a good week. You know, be like, what do you guys think? And again, don't try and lead the question. What do you guys think? Was it execution? Was it the comp? Are there any swaps we can make to make it more legitimate? Open the floor and keep pushing until they come up with a solution. Whether that's, hey, we just executed bad, we'll try it again. You know what? Honestly, if that's a conclusion they come up with and everyone seems bought into it, do it again. Do it again. You might have to drink a little more coffee tomorrow, but you're gonna gotta let them do it again. Let them do it again.
Absolutely.
Because that will build so much trust. And you know what's even better? If that were to happen and you were to do a little bit of a VOD review about how you could execute that comp better that they came up with, like that would be even better, right? Because it shows that like, hey, I'm on your side. I'm not sitting here trying to prove you guys wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a weird balance of like finding all this time to learn all this strategy just to be able to use it to ask the right questions and provide feedback here and there. And to be very clear, I did teach a lot, but it's almost like you teach things. Let me give you the best way of describing it. When you're teaching somebody how to cook, you teach them how to use the oven. You teach them what is generally the best use for this spice or that spice, or like you should never do this, you should never do that. And you just give them like some big basic things that are easy to remember, and you build from there, and you build from there, and you build from there, right? But you don't hover over the shoulder and tell them how to use the, right? So for me, it's like I remember one of the things that I did with London is I taught them the power of off. We talked a lot about off angles, the power of map control, right? I talked a lot about with Landon, we did a lot of dynamic positioning. In Jungle Queen Comp, I taught layers, but there were like these big picture things that allowed a lot of autonomy in application.
Yep.
So even when I was teaching, it was autonomy. Guys, timing is crucial. Everybody has to be on the same page. Have fun, right?
Yep.
Or layers, we need to be using this ultimate. Don't combo ults, use that ult, then respond to that ult, then use this ult and respond to that ult, right? But then which ultimate's better to open up with? I don't know.
Yep.
We could talk. I will have an opinion if you want to talk about it, but I'm not going to tell you. You're going to need to go figure it out. So it's like when you're teaching, it's like you're giving them tools to cook with, essentially.
Yep.
You're not telling them how to cook. You're giving them tools to cook with. And so, because I did a lot of teaching, but you don't want to tell them how to apply it, I guess, if that makes sense.
You got to keep things very, very, very basic. That's
right.
That's like
right.
That's like an obvious building block, of course. But
and by basic, if I can interject, it doesn't necessarily mean not advanced.
No,
it means simple, easy to remember, right?
Yeah.
Like easy to, like, for example, like like the layer series, like something that I think a lower ranked player would struggle to understand. Higher ranked player, it's a little bit easier to understand. But what it is it allows a lot of flexibility in application, and it's broadly applicable. Broadly applicable, and we talked about that earlier with the coaching brawl mirror, and then they play spam, right? So,
yeah.
Because the specific stuff the players have to come up with, otherwise they won't remember it in time. Like it takes a long time for a coach to break a player habit, a micro habit. It takes a long time.
Right. So let's get specific in regards to, like, say, positioning. Again, just very, very like basically positioning, making the positional swap from like brawl to brawl, brawl to spam, brawl to dive, so to speak. Like, very basic, obviously, but like, what would be like you'd have to talk about thinking about what part of the map you are actually wanting to control, right? Like that would be the basic thing, and then the damage, the shooting the bad guys, comes pretty naturally from there.
Sure. What you could do in that matchup is you could teach brawl versus brawl as like a timing and an off angle control. Brawl versus dive. You could, like you said earlier, like utilizing the spam more, controlling of space, marking, and then brawl versus spam being more like a group rotates, right? And timing.
Yep.
Right. But do you see how, like, if you were able to just do like a 10, 15 minute VOD review on each of those concepts and just be like, all right, then, go forth and multiply. If we see brawl, some sort of dive, like we can be like, all right, I need to kind of mark and control space. How do I want to do that? It gives them a lot of like, it's a very like kind of broad brush to paint with, right? And if they see spam, you don't teach them how to rotate. You don't teach them where to rotate, but they'll figure it out. They'll figure it out.
They'll figure it out. Yeah. Just something that they can see. And then again, the other thing is like basic quick diagnosis of what the other composition is, and then finding out like the middle
Sure.
ground between how spammy are they, how
Sure.
brawly are they, how
Sure.
divey are they, and then playing around.
Sure.
Again, like the cooldown stuff is like the other thing. It's like, okay, well, if they
Sure.
don't know this, then we do that.
And this is where I think that the line between like teaching and like player ownership is like really blurry, because like you probably notice it right there, is that like the hybrid comps are really, 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 really annoying, right? And they're very, very popular. I mean, most of Overwatch 2 comps are hybrids, right?
Right.
So what you do is you pull up in VOD review a matchup that you struggled and said, guys, what do we do? Like we talked about earlier, right? And then you pull up another composition. But I used to do this for fun. I would do this with some of the teams that I was coaching just for practice, just to demonstrate the point. I'd pull up a ranked game.
No, yeah, seriously.
Just be like, okay, how do we play? If you were coaching this team, what would you say? And make them figure it out in like 30 seconds or less.
Yeah, that's good. That's really clean, actually.
And that's a fun drill, because it's total chaos. It's ridiculous, the comps that you're going to see, Moira versus Torbjorn. But it's going to make them think. And so that they get faster at applying it and thinking about it. And like they analyze the individual pieces, and then they look at the bigger picture, and then you make them consider the map too. And that was one of the few drills that I liked.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to drill in Overwatch 2, but like that is a really fun drill.
That's good. Because that's what I don't play the game so super often anymore. I mean, I play it, enough to, get comfortable with patches and stuff, but like that's what I'll do. Like I'll just like I'll pick one tank and I won't swap no matter how brutal the composition is, and I'll just play, and I'll be like, okay, I'm going to try to play this Doomfist with, Lifeweaver Moira. And like how do I do it? How do I do it? And it's as simple as that.
Yeah, that's the coach brain. It's like I want to be able to figure it out.
Right, I want to solve the puzzle. Yeah. Okay. You brought up drills.
Yeah.
You talked about that drill there about like asking what the questions are in regards to.
Yep.
Random matchups, so to speak. And that's a very good mental drill. I don't know why I don't even consider those things as drills, because Overwatch is, of course, a largely mental game.
Took me a lot longer than I'd like to admit to figure that out.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Like, I
can't tell you how many years I struggled because we'd spend time coaching a matchup and then didn't play it, and I just never figured it out that I just needed to stop trying so hard.
I know. Yeah, seriously. I mean, that's why I came to you, because again, it's like, okay, coaching is obviously something that can help people along, right? If you talk to someone that's more experienced, that you might get something, you might pick up faster yourself. Okay?
I made a lot more mistakes than you, so I have the best for it, right?
Well, exactly, right. So it's like, okay, I'm not doing something that I like right now. How do I get it? Let's talk to someone who knows what they're talking about a little bit more than I do. In terms of drills, though, like there is no way for mechanical drills, is there? There's like no
mechanical drills, no,
or like timing drills even.
I had mixed success with Uprising Academy at points in time. This was back when we sucked and I was getting desperate, and so I was trying like a lot of random crap. We had fun doing some rotational drills sometimes on some problematic maps, practicing a few rotations just a couple of times, but no. Besides that, not really, no.
There's no real way to do it.
No.
And rotational drills are basically, I mean, obviously the players are then in game, but you can like probably just go over map overlay and just talk about.
Yeah, if there was any specific points, like for example, like if you're attacking Blizzard World Second and you're running Brawl.
Yep.
You might be like, all right, guys, so we're gonna have this person push the cart, and then these guys rotate, and then I would actually have them physically acted out once or twice, and I'd be sitting there in Hans and the enemy team just piping shots at them, right? And it was corny, and so we'd only do it a couple of times because it wouldn't take it too seriously. But it did kind of get them in the mode for it, right? And so if there's any specific, there are not very many of them. This was also during a May meta one time. We had we would practice rotating through like I think Oasis University certain points to see if we could clump up and skip May wall essentially. I don't know how relevant that is anymore in Overwatch 2, but things like that were useful.
Yeah.
But niche, very niche.
Very niche. Set plays, and of course in Overwatch are going to be harder than in like football. There's no break
Yep.
period before you
No.
can actually go. Even in basketball, right? You at least
Yep.
get like
No, basketball's way more so. Yeah.
yeah. Um. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Um. This is basically how I expected this talk to go. Is there anything else on that form?
Um. Not really. I think we talked about one-on-ones. We talked about scrimmage goal setting, team VOD reviews, the lecture focus, the macro isn't properly translating.
Yep.
Um, one trick question, how to be efficient with your coaching.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just maybe one more thing to touch on. It's just like, obviously, like you still have limited time. So it's be like, all right, so we kind of talked about scrimmages, but like, what's the most effective use of team VOD review time per week,
Yes.
right? I think that's going
Yeah.
to be something that you kind of have to play on a week by week basis.
Yeah.
But I think like you probably will make more educated decisions based off of what we
Yeah.
say here. Oh, and don't be afraid to prescribe homework if there's time for that as well. Or at the very least, just
Right.
have the players come in prepared to think a little bit.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, I'll probably make them do some obnoxious 5-minute writing drills, frankly, just to help them like think about things in their own mind.
Sure.
Because it really helps when you are able to put a complicated idea onto paper. Um,
Sure.
from what I've found. Um, okay.
We're
Okay.
looking through here. I don't see anything else. Your sleep is on the lower end.
Yeah,
And
no, that's an interesting one. I think that was probably like the 7 hours what I was saying for there. I know that you make a good point about getting good sleep, and I could have certainly used some last night. I did not get as much sleep as I would
I
have
am
liked.
on the same. I did not sleep well. But
Yes,
I
yeah.
tried. I put myself in the opportunity for it. But so if you put yourself and you don't do it, okay. But give
I,
yourself the opportunity. That's what I've learned.
I'm kind of in a not so great situation in regards to sleep schedule. So I work basically. One of the things my sleep schedule's all fucked up is because I worked in restaurants for a very long time,
Right.
and I stayed very late. And then after, what I would do, because there was so much adrenaline from after the shift, basically, is I'd go to the gym at like 4 in the morning, and
Right.
I would work out, and that basically became necessary for me to go to sleep.
Makes sense.
For a while there. Yeah, I was the only one. I would just do my own thing, and then come down after, driving home from the gym was what would put me to sleep. And unfortunately, I am in a spot right now where I do not have a car to get to a 24-hour gym. So sleep has
Oh,
been difficult
I'm sorry to
recently.
hear that. I'm
It's
sorry to
not
hear that.
great. Yeah.
Make the most
But
of your situation, you know?
yeah.
Do what you need to do. Like I work out in whatever way that's convenient for you with whatever the shortcomings that you can, even if it's just something short.
Yeah.
I think that's important. I just think that's like it's really important for you to be able to like think clearly, to regulate your emotions, especially more so than the players, right? Like it's so
Yep.
important that you regulate your emotions
Right.
well, and I think all that's going to come from a good night's sleep
Yep.
whenever you can.
Yep. Yeah. No, I agree. I will say that I've gotten the players to commit to 1,000 push-ups a week.
Wow,
Um,
nice.
yeah, which is not bad.
A lot of push-ups.
I help them out. I do a decent amount. But we break the 1,000 mark, so I consider it justified.
That's crazy.
Um,
That's a lot of push-ups.
yeah, 6 people plus me. I do a decent amount of them, but
Still,
yeah,
still.
no, it's good. I mean, I mean, I don't know. Like, this is an interesting way to look at it, but honestly, a big part of what I think I'm doing here is, I honestly like I look past Overwatch in the same way that from what I think you do as well. Um, it's like I don't think that I consider what I'm doing here, especially as a collegiate coach, and what I think college is really for, is making people into real people.
Right.
And that's like my number one goal, which is why I get upset that I can't do the I haven't been as able to implement the leader idea as I would have liked, I think.
Well, it's hard, like I'm sitting here talking about it, and I'm still studying it extensively myself.
Right.
I feel like kind of a
Right.
dope, to be honest with you. Like,
Oh,
I feel like
no.
I feel like I can see like my timeline of my coaching in my brain, even with the one-on-one coaching I do nowadays, and I feel like I'm doing a slowly getting better at it, but it's hard.
It's certain. I certainly know. I certainly know how you feel. To maybe reassure you,
Please.
like at this point in your Overwatch profile, I am absolutely positive that you've done quite a good job at leader coaching,
Well, I
based on
appreciate it.
based on me and other people that I know, and your subscriber count alone. I think
Surely.
at growing as much as it has very recently, it shows me that there are quite a few people that are embracing the leader idea.
Well, I appreciate that, and I hope so. Like, because I think like like the way I always look at like the coach thing is I always go, I wish I'd had some sort of advice when I started. So
Yeah,
there
right.
was nothing out there. People are like, oh, Jane was not helpful. Like Jane was fine for like plat players and like figuring out the basics of like learning heroes, but like like Jane, it was not his fault. It wasn't what his content was for. So
Yeah,
like whenever I was trying to up and coming coach, or I just didn't have anything. Like I
yeah.
had
There's really nothing.
Arrow had VOD reviews when he was Dallas. He did some analysis, and that was like some gameplay stuff of like double sniper, and that went the way of the dodo like 2 or 3 months after he did it, and it was just like, I mean, I absorbed those VODs like nothing else because there just wasn't anything out there. So
Yeah.
I just try to provide what wasn't there when I was there.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
all I
that's
can do.
actually. I mean, funnily enough, what I'm doing with my college right now, and it's, what I'm looking to do is I'm attempting a coaches seminar. Like, that's what
Nice.
we've been doing. I'm trying to get like the esports program into like a real thing,
Nice.
with real people, like a real athletics program, and trying to get people like, okay, no, this is how we want to be doing things. So, and again, this is a big impetus for why I reached out to you, because you know what you're doing, at least so it seems. So, I wanted to get
Nice.
multiple perspectives and use that to help me. But yeah, should read more. I should read some more books
You
that
should.
aren't
You
fiction.
should message read more books that aren't what?
That aren't fiction.
Well, send me a reminder and I'll send you my list. I got some ones that are top of the list. I mean, you brought up Jocko Willink, but I've actually found stuff that I think I like even better.
I know you talk about Atomic Habits a lot.
Haven't read it.
Oh, you haven't read it?
I have it on my
Okay.
bookshelf. I just got it for my birthday.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's like,
No.
I need to read that book, kind of
Yeah.
talking about it.
Yeah,
I've heard you
yeah.
mention it. I know that's true.
I'm slowly grinding through my bookshelf. I've
Okay.
read. I'm almost like, I basically, what happened is I like had the subscription to like thrift books or whatever, like
Yeah,
3
yeah.
years ago, and I'm not even joking, like probably 50 or 60 books
Yeah.
of coaching books.
Yeah. No,
And I've been working through them, and I'm finally down to like under 12 now. So like,
Wow. Okay.
yeah, I'm getting there. I mean, it's taken a long time. But Atomic Habits is one of the ones I got for my birthday, so it's still in like 15th place at the moment.
Okay.
Just read a really thick psychology book recently, and another book I think you'd be very interested in called "Turn Your Ship Around." But yeah, I've got a whole list if you're interested in knowing what books I recommend. Just send me a reminder.
Absolutely, I will.
I'll try and pick the ones that are either the least boring or the most useful, so you get your biggest bang for your buck.
Of course. Yeah. No, I mean, absolutely. Turn Your Ship Around. It sounds like quite a noble book by the title.
It is. It's a good one. It's a nuclear submarine operator.
Yes. My grandfather was a nuclear
Really?
submarine operator. Yep.
Really. That's fascinating. Yeah, I mean, it sounds super complicated, and the book was great. One of my favorites. So I highly recommend that one, at least to start.
I certainly will. Yeah, that sounds good.